Hello, I'm Robert Gamblin, oil painter and founder of Gamblin Artist Colors. For 25 years, I've served painters by making finest quality oil painting materials. And I know for a fact the old masters would be jealous if they could see all the colors painters have today. In 1989, I saw for myself what the old master paints were really like when the Smithsonian Institution commissioned me to recreate about 150 oil paints from the 17th and 18th centuries. I served as colorman for the Smithsonian just like a colorman served the studio of the Renaissance, making paints and mediums and advising on technical issues. As the colorman for Gamblin Artist Colors, my job is to help you to sort out and select the right combination of materials to make painting easier. One way I'd like to help you is to make color mixing more predictable on your own palette. By using only grids of paint chips on a color chart, I can only show you the arrays of oil paints made by Gamblin Artist Colors. But I want to do more. I want to show you how to mix colors together, so I've made some navigational tools to help painters get around the universe of colors I call color space. During this program, I will show you how you can use Gamblin Color Space as a quick way to identify and mix the colors you want. I define color space by three main attributes: hue, value, and intensity. Here's how it works. As we move around color space, we move through the hue families. All colors belong in hue families. The more intense chromatic colors are found at the outer edges, and as we move to the center, colors become more neutral. Moving up and down through color space, we see the color's value, how light or how dark it is. This program is really the world's first three-dimensional color chart for artists. Within color space, you'll find 97 Gamblin oil colors, plus all the colors you can mix from them. The question is, what color do you want to mix? Using my new navigational tools, let me show you how to find your color in color space. First, determine your color's hue, for example, yellow. Next, determine its temperature within its hue family. Is your yellow found toward the warm side or the cool side? What's the color's value? How light or dark is it? Then we need to adjust the intensity or chroma of this yellow. Hue, value, and color intensity are attributes of color we need to define so we can locate the color in color space. After years of talking with artists about the attributes of colors, I think I have found an easier way to talk about color space. Let's connect the attributes of value, hue, and intensity to the three great eras of painting history. Artists can always call to mind what a Renaissance painting looks like, so my system's based on what artists see in addition to what we think about. Value marks the first dimension of Gamblin color space. Value was the focus of the classical era. Renaissance masters had very few colored pigments available to them, so they made their paintings by carefully drawing the relationships between dark and light values. Hue forms the second dimension of Gamblin color space. Hue I link to the Impressionists. The new colors invented during the 19th century Industrial Revolution gave the Impressionists a complete array of pure, light-fast colors in all hue families. Intensity is the third dimension. High chroma colors of the 20th century color revolution were embraced by modern masters. The modern colors are intense in mass tone, tint, and transparency. The three dimensions create the structure. Now, let's see how my color space works. We'll start at the first dimension. Most of the old master colors were based on pigments dug up out of the earth. Earth colors are muted. They make mixtures with low intensity. So to paint in the classical tradition, select your colors close to the neutral core. Colors such as Naples yellow hue or yellow ochre, Raciana, Venetian or Indian red, or terra verte. Black is at the bottom of color space, white is at the top. As you navigate, you can see that colors get lighter or darker depending on how much white or black you add to the mixture. If we connect these colors together in color space, you can see there just isn't much color space created. Painters of the classical era had to rely on dark and light values more than color to create mood and emotion. To break away from value-based techniques, you must move away from the neutral core. During the 19th century, more new light-fast pigments were made available to painters than during the previous 40,000 years. The furnaces of the Industrial Revolution gave us the mineral colors made by fusing metals together at high heat, such as cadmium, cobalt, and ultramarine. The paintings of the Impressionists are products of the Industrial Revolution just as much as the steam engine. The Impressionists revolutionized painting and best defined the second dimension of color space, hue. Yellow, orange, red, violet, blue, and green. All 7 million colors the human eye can see are organized into hue families. Compared to the pigments of the classical era, the mineral colors have much greater intensity and greater opacity. The Impressionists discovered that when you add white to the mineral colors, they quickly gray into the colors of the natural world. So the Impressionists could go out into the landscape and use their new colors to capture the light of any place at any time of the day. Their direct painting techniques and mineral colors dominated 20th century art. Now, the third dimension of color space opened for artists after World War II. High-tech pigments made in controlled laboratory conditions create pure colors of very high chroma, intense colors with great transparency in all hue families, such as phthalo blue, Hansa yellow, and perylene red. These colors have high intensity in mass tone, which is the color as it comes from the tube, transparency, as it is seen in glazed layers, and tint, the color as it looks when mixed with white. I call them modern colors to differentiate them from the 19th century mineral colors. Mineral and modern colors may look similar in mass tone, but they are completely different in all other attributes. When mixed with Galkid, the moderns make incredible glazing colors. Adding glaze over glaze, you can capture light deep inside paint layers to create luminosity. Imagine the increased depth in old master paintings glazed with colors of this incredible transparency. So now, let's look at the intensity of the moderns. Compare the intensity of Viridian, mixed here with white, and the intensity of phthalo green's tint. In color space, mineral colors lose their intensity when mixed, so place their tints and mixtures closer to the neutral core. The modern colors retain their intensity when mixed with white. Their tints move up and away from the neutral core toward the outside edge of color space. Now you see how the great eras of painting history form the three dimensions of Gamblin color space. So let's use a color's attributes, value, hue, and intensity, as navigational tools to identify any color you want to mix. Let's target a color and go get it. Hue, red. Temperature, cool. Cadmium red light is on the warm side. Let's draw a line between this warm red and the cool red on the other side of the hue. Let's aim for quinacridone magenta. Our color can be found by mixing along the line between cadmium red and quinacridone magenta. Next, we need to adjust its value. The color needs a lighter value, so I'm adding white. I made it too light in value, so I could add black to darken it slightly. Instead of black, I will add a gray. After painting through the cloudiest winter in Portland's history, I had lots of time to contemplate value. Soon after, I formulated the Portland grays as shortcuts to adjusting value. I'll use one of them now. Here's Portland gray medium at value 6. Now my red has lost too much intensity. The only way to increase its intensity is to go back to our first mixture, add white to create a tint at the right value, and now mix the tint into our red color. There's our color, and here's its place in color space. By mixing with white, black, or gray, we can adjust a color's value but not its hue. I cannot adjust its hue unless I mix it with colors from other hues. Mixing through color space you'll see colors look more muted closer to the neutral core because they lose their intensity. Also, as we pass through another hue family, our color mixture will belong to that hue. Let me show you. Mix alizarin with viridian. Viridian green is far away through color space. Painters have been mixing these two colors for 150 years. Add a little viridian to the alizarin. The red is moved just a little, but heading toward violet. I'll add some white so we can see the color better. A little more green, and we are on the border of violet and red. Next, we cross into the violet hue. Here's a warm violet. Now it's more green, and we have a cool violet. Continuing to add green, our color crosses into the blue hue, a warm blue. Now notice that we are close to the neutral core, so our color is very gray. Add more viridian, and our color becomes a cooler blue. And finally, our color crosses into green. The intensity starts to increase as we rotate away from the neutral core until we reach pure viridian. Let's go back to alizarin, but this time let's mix toward cadmium lemon. Our first mixture is a medium red. Adding more yellow, we make a mixture a warmer red. Adding more yellow, we cross into the orange hue. First, we make a warm orange. As you can see, this mixture is not as close to the neutral core as our alizarin viridian mixture, so our mixtures never get as gray. As we continue adding cadmium lemon to our mixture, we create a cool orange. Then, crossing into the yellow hue, we make a warm yellow, and the color gets cooler as we finally reach pure cadmium lemon. My system for navigating color space allows you to see the colors you want. You want to make an old master style painting? Remember what one looks like. Then put the colors of a Rembrandt painting in your mind. See, it's mostly made with muted browns and grays with only a few intense colors like vermilion red used for accent. You can find colors from the classical era close to the neutral core. These colors have low intensity and nearly the same value. Like painters from the classical era, you can adjust these colors using white and black. For greater access to color space, rotate out from the neutral colors into the hue families, where you'll find hundreds more potential mixtures among the colors of the Impressionists. If your color is still not intense enough, look for higher chroma colors among the modern colors located at the outer edge of color space. Our three-dimensional model of color space looks great, but how can you use this information to get down to your own palette? First, let's take our 3D color space model down to 2 dimensions. Here's a traditional color wheel. It's really just a flat view of color space. To make your own, begin by drawing a circle. Divide the circle in half horizontally, then draw a V shape from the center of the circle up to the outside edge. Then draw a V mirror image down to the bottom of the circle. Now I'm going to name these sections with the hue families. Yellow is at the top. Moving clockwise around the circle, orange goes next. Now here's red, violet, blue, and green. For myself, I use a version of the 19th century spectral palette. With colors at regular steps around the color wheel, I get the widest access to color space. The more intense a color, the further out on the color wheel it goes. White, black, and grays are neutral, so they go at the center on the neutral core. If you are mixing an orange from a yellow and red, remember to place the mixture closer to the neutral core because mixed colors have a lower intensity than the colors they are mixed from. I label the warm and cool sides of each hue family. On my palette, I use 2 colors in each hue. One is warmer, one is cooler. The blues closest to red are warm. The blues closest to green are cool. Here's my coolest yellow, cadmium lemon. As yellow shifts closer to orange, my yellow is warmer. Here's cadmium yellow medium. My warm yellow meets cool orange. The temperature is based on a color's position inside its hue family. Between orange and red, There's a force of nature. Two warm colors meet. Here is the hot spot. This is the only place on the color wheel where two warm colors come together, where warmest orange meets warm red. Opposite that is where cool blue meets cool green. The only place on the wheel where a cool color meets a cool color. This is the cold spot. Notice how the patterns of warm and cool temperatures are mirror images of each other. If you always establish the hot and cold spots on the color wheel, all the other colors fall into place. Each dimension of color space makes a separate color wheel. Remember, earth colors are muted yellows, oranges, and reds. They should be placed on the wheel close to the neutral core. A high chroma palette goes around the outside edge. To see a whole list of Gamblin oil colors and their temperature bias within their hues, go to gamblincolors.com. There you'll find a template for laying your colors out properly on a 2D color wheel. Compare my palette of colors to yours. Can you see how your selection of colors defines your access to color space? Some painters oversimplify their palettes by not using a full array of pure hues. For example, they skip violet. You see this mixed violet has less intensity than a pure cobalt violet or dioxazine purple. Be careful not to limit your selection of colors too much. Every time you do, you take away some access to color space. So from 3 dimensions, we have compressed color space to 2 dimensions. Next is the critical step. Let's see how we can use the information from this 2-dimensional color wheel to organize our palettes so we can start to paint. I think of this step as unzipping the color wheel. Watch as I separate the color wheel between yellow and green. I am keeping the colors in exactly the same relationships as they had on the wheel. Here's cool yellow, orange, warm red, cool red, black goes here, white goes here. This reserves the space for mixing clean yellows. That's important to me because 1/2 the colors on this palette will make yellow turn green. Remember, my goal is to make predictable mixtures. I always arrange my colors so I can maintain their hue and temperature relationships with each other. Before mixing a new color, I need to identify the hue and the color's temperature. Mix only in the space directly beneath the mother hue. Adjust its value and adjust its intensity. If you are using a classical palette, your yellow is yellow ochre. Or an Impressionist palette, add cadmium yellow. If you prefer a high-key modern palette, your yellow is Hansa yellow. The key is to keep your mixtures in order by always mixing under the mother hue. When you run out of a mixture, you can quickly remix that color because most of the information is still on your palette. And you can always go back into color space and find it again. That's the beauty of my system. You can do the real work in your imagination. After all, that is where color space really exists. As your colorman, I want to help you find your place in color space by showing you how oil colors mix together. I want to help get your materials working for you. By giving you access to Gamblin color space, I hope I can take some of the myth out of 500 years of oil painting and show you you're the one with the magic. You can transform oil colors and painting mediums into art. Please visit Gamblin Artist Colors website for more information. If you do not find the information you need there, email me with your questions. I look forward to hearing from you.